What's this?
Hi. Okay. Okay. Thanks for standing up. You can have a seat. Okay, today we're speaking about Yisurim Shal Ava. So I hope that the delay in the beginning of this chug was Yisurim Shal Ava. Okay, I'm going to play with a curtain. I don't know if that's going to help. Are you guys able to see me, or should I let me shut the tris? Maybe it will help. I think that's somewhat better. Okay. The topic, which Bezrat Hashem, first of all, I'm very glad that we're able to start the Zman. I guess this is probably the first official chug of the Zman, being that today is the beginning of year. So I'd like to wish everybody a Chodesh Tov. And Bezrat Hashem, we should have the best possible Zman that we can. On one hand, the fact that we can't have things function the way that they're ideally speaking meant to function, that's upsetting. On the other hand, if this is the will of God, that this is the way things are going to work, then we're meant to submit to the will of God. A daughter of mine came home. There was somebody that had the following statement, the following idea, the following thought. When things don't go the way you want them, then just decide that you want them to go the way that they're happening. If this is the will of God, that this is what should be taking place, then we'll try to do the best that we can. Okay. Today, Bezrat Hashem, we're continuing with our discussion of the Hakdam of the Rambam to Perek Chilek. We'll be discussing the Ikarim, which relates to Schar Va'onesh. We did begin to discuss this Ikar a number of weeks back, but I'd like to elaborate on some of the things that we discussed. So first, to go through the Rambam, very brief section, the Rambam writes, the Yisod HaAsiri and Yisod HaChadasar, which relates to Schar Va'onesh. Rambam Yisod HaAsiri writes that HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows the actions of man and did not forsake man. Rather, as the pasuk indicates in Yirmiyahu, this is Yirmiyahu Lamed Beis Yud Tes, Gedol Ha'itzav Rab Ha'aliliya Asher Einechat B'kuchos Al Kol Derchei Bnei Adam. HaKadosh Baruch Hu's eyes observe all the actions of man. The continuation of the pasuk is Laseis La'ish Kidrachav V'chachri Ma'alalav. Give each person in accordance with his deeds. That's the Yisod HaAsiri. The Yisod HaChadasar, says the Rambam, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu rewards those that perform the mitzvahs and punishes those that violate averos. And that the Ikar Schar, says the Rambam, Scharo HaYoser Gadol is Olam Haba. And the greatest onesh is Kares. And he quotes the pasuk, Im tisachat asam v'mayin mecheninam misifracha. Moshe Rabbeinu, after the Chet HaEgel, says that if you're going to forgive the Jewish people, great. But if not, then mecheninam misifracha shekasafta. Then erase me from your book. And the HaKadosh Baruch Hu responds, Mi asher chatali emchenu misifri. HaKadosh Baruch Hu responds that whoever sinned will be erased from the book, but you, Moshe Rabbeinu, did not sin. You will not be erased from the Sefer HaChayim. Okay, that's the Rambam. In connection with this Rambam, I'd like to discuss a number of points relating to Schar Va'onesh and relating to the topic of Tzadik V'Ralo Rasha V'Tovla. It goes without saying that we're certainly not going to totally encompass this point. We're going to try to at least scratch the surface. Before we discuss this, anymore. It's worthwhile to point out the mashal of the Chafetz Chaim. It could be some other opportunity during the year when we talked about this. The Chafetz Chaim has some mashal which he gives concerning the surim that we sometimes see in this world. The mashal was said in connection with that section in the Kinos. We also, I believe, on Yom Kippur, when we talk about the Asar Haruge Malchus, the Rambam there, in the Kinos, we say that at a certain point the Malachei Asharis called out to God, and they said, "How could this be? It just doesn't add up. Zu Torah v'zu schara. Is this the reward for keeping the mitzvos? This is the reward for the mitzvos of the Torah." And the response of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is some of the effect that if they continue to complain, then the world will return to Tov Vavo. The world will go back to Tov Vavo. What sort of strange response is this? It is true that sometimes when kids do all sorts of nonsense and the parents might lose their temper, not your parents, but sometimes parents will lose their temper and they will say, well, hey, one more word out of you, I'm going to smash you to pieces. So is that what HaKadosh Baruch Hu is responding to the Malachim? Not likely. So how do we understand HaKadosh Baruch Hu's response to the Malachei Asharis? So the Chafetz Chaim explains with a mashal. Once there was a king that called the royal tailor and asked the tailor to prepare some very beautiful garment for some very important event that was coming up in some amount of time. The king gave the tailor some very expensive material and told him to take measurements and to prepare the garment, to take whatever time he needed, but make sure he does a beautiful job, he tells the tailor, and, adds the king, make sure to bring back any spare material, and material you don't need. Okay, the tailor takes the measurements and takes the material home, gets to work. And he comes back sometime later with a very beautiful garment. The king tries it on and is very impressed. And is about to write the check and give him his reward for manufacturing the garment. But the king says, well, 1 second. Says the tailor, yes, how could I be of help? Says the king, well, where's the rest of the material? So the tailor responds, he says, well, I'm sorry, no material left. I used it all up. The king says, how could that be? Last time there was some material, says the tailor, well, last time maybe there's some material, maybe grown over the years. So they get into a dialogue, get into an argument. And at some point the tailor says, well, you want me to prove to you that I didn't take any of the expensive material for myself, that it all went into the garment? Says the king, yes, I do. Says the tailor, no problem. Scissors, please. I'll cut up the garment. I'll make out of it a jigsaw puzzle. And you'll see that I didn't take any of the material for myself. Ad kan the mashal. The nimshal, says the Chafetz Chaim, is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world in Sheishis Mei Bereshis. The Malachim were created on the second day, not on the first day. The Malachim weren't around at the beginning of creation. And therefore, even their perspective is somewhat limited. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, you want to be able to understand exactly what's going on in this world? The only way to do so is to restore the world to Tov Vavo. The world goes back to Tov Vavo before anything was created. Then the master plan could be explained. The master plan could be understood. But the Malachim, they're not able to understand that. And Kol Shekain, certainly we're not able to understand that. So before we give any sort of explanation, before we begin to discuss Schar Va'onesh, how things work, Tzadik V'Ralo, Rosh V'Tovlo, we have to keep in mind this mashal. It would be presumptuous of us to think that we could fully answer this question. We do know some of the important pieces of the puzzle. And Bezrat Hashem, today we'll be discussing some of the pieces of the puzzle. In the continuation, although we're not going to get to this today, I would like to discuss a topic which was somewhat related, certainly related to Schar Va'onesh, and that is the topic of Hashkacha Pratis. At least for now, as I said, today, more about Schar Va'onesh, about the various factors that come into consideration with respect to Tzadik Vralo, Rosh V'Tovlo, and perhaps we'll also have a chance to discuss the concept of Yisurim Shala'ava. There is some source sheet which I just sent out at 12:30-ish. I sent it to the Shir. I don't know if there's somebody would be able to see to it that it will be sent out in the event that this is being recorded. It says on the screen that it is, to send it out together with the recording in the event that we do get to that source sheet. Okay. So let's first go through somewhat quickly some of the factors that we need to take into consideration with respect to the surim which we have in this world. Maybe even beforehand, let's point out that Kadosh Baruch Hu rewards and punishes, but not mainly in this world. This is in the world to come, as the Rambam indicated. Why not just have one world? Why is it necessary for there to be two worlds? The Olam Hazeh and Olam Haba, and Olam Hazeh, in which Kadosh Baruch Hu hides himself, so to speak. Zeshmi la'olam la'alem. Kadosh Baruch Hu hides himself in this world. Why not have schar and onish in this world? So one of the explanations given is that had the schar v'onish been in this world, then there wouldn't be any sort of nisayon. Then when a person does the mitzvah, if every time we do a mitzvah we would have the reward immediately, then wouldn't be much of a nisayon. Then we'd be doing the mitzvah not because of love of the mitzvah, but because we want the reward that's coming. For every time a person ate without a bracha, would get a tremendous stomachache. Then saying a bracha wouldn't be thanking God, would be doing something which you do to avoid a stomachache. There's a pasuk in Tehillim which says, "Af apav yivchanu bnei adam." God's eyelids test man. The Meshech Chochmah explains that the eyelid is that which hides the eyes. The eyes of God are associated with the Kadosh Baruch Hu's watching over the world, with the Kadosh Baruch Hu's hashgacha in this world. So the apapaim, that which hides Kadosh Baruch Hu's hashgacha in this world, that which the reason why Kadosh Baruch Hu's hashgacha is not so obvious, that which Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't reward and punish in this world, is apapav yivchanu b'nei adam, so that people are tested, so that people could do mitzvos l'shem shemayim, not simply for the sake of the reward. Okay. So what are some of the factors that we know about that would explain the surim of tzaddikim in this world? So just somewhat briefly, number one, the fact that there's an olam haba, the fact that this world is not the final settling of accounts. Okay, that is one factor. Does that answer all the questions? Well, apparently not. The assumption is that there's some rhyme and reason for why things happen the way they do in this world. And thus, the fact that the Olam Haba is not the full answer to the issue of Tzadik Vrala. Okay. Now, one of the factors which certainly are emphasized in the Gemara, as perhaps we will see, and Chazal, is the fact that Adam ein Tzadik ba'artza sheyaseh tov lo yachta. When a person's generally speaking righteous, does have some averos, and being that's the case, so the tzaddik has his averos punished in this world, and thus in the world to come, he will be able to enjoy the reward without being bogged down, so to speak, by those averos. The Rasha, on the other hand, that very much values and cherishes this world, and this world only, so he, in fact, is rewarded for his mitzvos in this world, rather than in the world to come. There's also a factor, an additional factor, that perhaps we'll talk about, is the concept of Yisurim Shala'ava. There's a Gemara in Brachos, perhaps we will see, on Daf Hey, that speaks of a concept of Yisurim Shala'ava. Yisurim which come, the simple reading of the Gemara, Yisurim that come without any Averos, Yisurim which are there, Laharbos Scharo, in Olam Ha'emes. Okay, that's something which requires explanation, which hopefully we'll be able to. Sorry. Furthermore, there is a concept that at times when there's a tzibur that's worthy of being punished for whatever reasons, then what might take place is that if there's a person that is in the wrong place at the wrong time, so to speak, then even that individual is not a great sinner. Nevertheless, unless he's extremely holy, it's possible that he will be punished as part of that tzibur. For example, Rav Sadia Gaon writes, at the time of the Mabul, there might have been some children that have not violated any sin, that have not done anything wrong, but nevertheless, since HaKadosh Baruch Hu determined that the world was worthy of punishment, then those children were suffered as well, although he does add that in fact, la'asid lavo, in Olam HaEmes, those children will be compensated. Along similar lines, the Jewish people are told, points out Rav Sadi Gaon in Emunos Vedeos, the Jewish people are told to wipe out all the males, all the men of Midian, of the nation of Midian, including the children. And those children, many of them did not reach any age when they could have sinned. And similarly there, says Rav Sadi Gaon, that there will be compensation for those individuals in the world to come. The Gemara has the expression Baba Kama around Daf Samach, if I'm not mistaken, once there's permission given to the mashchis, to the destructive forces, it doesn't distinguish between the tzaddik and rasha. So again, very often, if there's a person that is extremely righteous, he might be protected from such a gzera. But at times, there's a person that's generally speaking righteous, that's not deserving of a particular punishment. What if he's in the wrong place at the wrong time? Then perhaps there will be some punishment or some suffering also for that person. This is a concept or some other additional explanation for the suffering of the righteous, which we in the history world has taken place, and suffering the righteous in our situation nowadays is something that Bezrat Hashem I'd like to discuss more later in the continuation. I hope we'll have a chance to get to that. There's also a concept, a Kabbalistic concept of Gilgulim, and the Alshich and others explain that suffering this world has something to do with the concept of Gilgul. This is something which we're not going to get into due to the fact that I'm not a maven in any shape, manner, or form on Gilgulim. I'll just point out that the idea of Gilgulim is one which is very well accepted in many sources, but it's not agreed upon by all. Rav Sadia Gaon does not seem to accept such a concept. In general, my guess is that there's something which is a lot more prevalent. The idea of Gilgulim is something which is more prevalent in the those that go with Chachmas Kabbalah. Also, we need to keep in mind that Tzaddik V'Ralo doesn't necessarily refer to a situation where there's a tzaddik that needs to drive a old broken down car rather than driving a Cadillac or a Rolls Royce. David HaMelech points out in Tilim Ayin Gimel, after discussing Tzaddik V'Ralo and pointing out that his emunah was almost shaken when he saw the fact that there are many wicked people that are doing so well and righteous that are suffering. So one of the points which David HaMelech makes over there is that he says, Va'ani kirvas Elokim lito. As for me, closeness to God is good. Closeness to God is what I value. The idea being that Tzaddik V'Ralo doesn't refer to a situation where the tzaddik, in terms of materialistic wealth, isn't doing that great. For a tzaddik, he has closeness to God. If he has his basic needs, then that's not called tzaddik V'Ralo. If he doesn't have his basic needs, then already we come back to the question of tzaddik V'Ralo, which we mentioned some of the factors. More will be discussed, Bezrat Hashem, in the continuation. We also should keep in mind, 1 second, please. We should also keep in mind an important point made by the Ramchal in Derech Hashem. This is on page 111 of the Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan translation. He points out the following, that what happens to a person in this world is not totally a function of schar va'onesh. After all, different people have different jobs, different tafkid in this life, and that does impact largely what happens to a person. He writes the following: every man's predicament in life is therefore his challenge. The highest wisdom divided these challenges among the human race in a manner decreed fitting and proper to fulfill its profound plan. Thus, every individual has his own challenge in the battle with his evil urge. This is his assignment and responsibility in this world, and within its framework, he must strive for success. His deeds are then judged by God's attribute of justice with true precision, depending on the particular responsibility that was given to him. So just as in an army, you have different people that have different jobs. You have the infantry, and you have the Air Force, and you have the Marines. Similarly, in this world, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives different people different jobs, different situations, and each one is judged on the basis of how he performed his task. Okay, he's marach there, but that's enough for now about that topic. With respect to Russia Vitovlo, some of the aforementioned factors also do exist. There are some additional factors that Rav Tzaddik points out in Ma'amar Hey in Emunos V'Deos, in the Rav Kapach translations on page Kofayin Ches. He points out that at times you have a Russia that has it good in this world due to the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows he's going to do tshuva. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu keeps him alive for the sake of his being able to do tshuva. Sometimes you have a Russia that's kept alive due to the fact that he will have a son that is righteous. After all, Achaz, the wicked king of Malchus Yehuda, had a very righteous son, Chizkiyahu. Sometimes, says Rav Tzaddik Gaon, there will be a wicked person that will be kept alive because that wicked person will be able to serve as a good hitman to punish others that are perhaps even more wicked. Of course, that fellow that's serving as a hitman he does so through his own bechira. So that doesn't exempt him from punishment. But nevertheless, HaKadosh Baruch will sometimes keep him alive because of that role that he will play. Ironically, sometimes, says Reb Tzaddik Gaon, HaKadosh Baruch will keep a Russia alive because HaKadosh Baruch wants to see to it that eventually he will suffer a more painful death. Thus, HaKadosh Baruch will sometimes save him from a certain punishment so as to have him suffer more in the continuation for his very evil deeds. At times, a Russia will be kept alive due to the fact that it's a particular request made by a tzaddik. We find that Lot, when escaping the destruction of Sodom, puts in a special request that Zoar not be destroyed, and in fact, HaKadosh Baruch Hu heeds that request and doesn't destroy Zoar. Of course, in addition, there's the idea that at times there are some zuchuyot that the Russia has, and that will be the basis of his being rewarded in this world. But we do have to keep in mind, as the pasuk says, and the Mizmor Shel Yom HaShabbos, the pasuk says, "Befroch Hashem kamo Esev, v'atzitu kople aven shamdam adead." The wicked, their flourishing is compared to Esev, which is not long lasting. Just look at the grass outside. Now, the success of the wicked is something which is not forever. On the other hand, the success of the tzaddikim is compared to a tzaddik katamar yifrach, something that lasts for a very long time. And in fact, the reward of the righteous is forever. Olam haba is something which is forever. Okay. Before going on to discussing the Gemara, the various couple of sources in the Gemara with respect to Tzaddik, Brala, Rosh, and Tovlo, let's just point out the following. It is critical, and this is one of the most important things that we need to keep in mind, and that is that Tzaddik Hashem b'chol drachav v'chasid b'chol ma'asav. And to remember that Ka'asher yiyaser ishes b'no, says the pasuk, Hashem Elokechem yasreka, that whatever suffering there is in this world is something which HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not for the sake of spite, but it's something which serves some positive purpose. Kasher yaser ishes b'no, just as a parent gives a punishment to his son only for the son's benefit, not out of spite, not because he hates him, not because he wants to take revenge. So similarly, the Yisurim which HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us also are for that purpose. And Chavetz Chaim writes in Shmiras HaLashon that we need to keep in mind the fact that when there's Yisurim in this world, Yisurim serve as kapara. Rav Bitterman, in his booklet in Parshas Tzav, he relates some story from Rav Nissen Gaon. Rav Nissen Gaon writes, he tells the story of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi wanted to accompany Eliyahu Hanavi on his travels. And said Eliyahu Hanavi, no problem, just one condition. What's that? Asks Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Well, the condition is that you don't ask any questions. Okay, doesn't sound like such a difficult condition to live up to. So he accepts that condition. So the first place they visit, Eliyahu Hanavi, together with Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, they visit some poor family that has very limited possessions, and they, the couple, this poor farmer and his wife, they do an amazing job of achnasas orchim. The next day, before they leave, Eliyahu Hanavi turns to God and prays to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that their cow, their only one cow, should die. What's that all about? Eliyahu Hanavi is asked by Yeshua ben Levi. So Eliyahu Hanavi says, no questions, right? So it's pretty difficult for Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi to not persist, but hey, he didn't have a choice. He said, wouldn't ask any questions. Next place they visit is some very stingy fellow that hardly is willing to take them in for money, but they do spend the night there. And this stingy fellow, his wall falls down. Middle of the night, the wall breaks. And the next morning, Eliyahu Hanavi davens that the wall should somehow miraculously be repaired on its own. Okay, that's his tefillah. Over here, Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi could no longer hold it in. He said, "I forget it. I'm not going to accompany you anymore. But I need to understand what went on over here. The first place that did such an amazing job of achnasas orchim, you pray Eliyahu Hanavi that the cow should die. The second place, where the fellow was so stingy, hardly was willing to take us in. There you pray that the wall should rebuild itself. What's that all about?" So explains. Eliyahu Hanavi explained. He said, "Well, the thing is the following. I understood that there was some gzera concerning the first family, concerning our first host. I understand that there's some gzera in Shemaim that the wife should die. But I figured that if they undergo the yisurim of the cow dying, that would trade it in, that would be a substitute for the wife having to die. And therefore I prayed that, in fact, the wife should die." The second place of the very stingy host, I prayed that the wall should be rebuilt because I knew that buried there under the wall was some great treasure. And if in fact the fellow would need to rebuild the wall himself, when digging the foundations, you would discover that treasure. And I didn't want that to happen. Therefore, I prayed that the wall should be rebuilt. Is this story meant kipshuta as a historical event or not? I don't know. But certainly the idea is very clear. That we can understand the basis for why things happen. We do know that when there's Yisur in this world, it does serve some positive purpose. Now, that's very easy intellectually to realize, but so difficult for a person to accept at real time. When it actually happens, it's very, very difficult. It's not easy. But we need to try to strengthen ourselves with that realization, with that understanding that kol ma'ida av Rahman l'tav avid. That whatever Kadosh Baruch Hu does is for the best. That Kadosh Baruch Hu knows what he's doing, and whatever he does is done out of a love. Okay. Now I'd like to take a look, at least begin to take a look at the Gemara in Brachos Daf Zayin Amud Aleph. If you have that Gemara, great. If not, then you'll listen. The basic idea of the Gemara is the following. We know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu praised Moshe Rabbeinu for that which Moshe Rabbeinu, prayed for the Jewish people and saved them, so to speak, from destruction at the time of the Chet HaEgel. And Moshe Rabbeinu reached a higher level of spirituality as a result of that. And Moshe Rabbeinu, at the time when he realized that he found favor in God's eyes, he asks HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Har'eini na es kvodecha. And the Gemara suggests that one of the things which Moshe Rabbeinu was asking HaKadosh Baruch Hu was Bikesh lo'odia dracham shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu mipnei ma yesh tzadik v'tov lo, yesh tzadik v'ra lo, yesh rasha v'tov lo, yesh rasha v'ra lo. Moshe Rabbeinu tried to understand the secret of tzadik v'ra lo, rasha v'tov lo. Now, before we go on, let's point out the following. It is clear from this Gemara, and it would seem that also from many psukim, that there are many righteous people, Moshe Rabbeinu, David HaMelech, Chavakuk, Yirmiyahu, Eov, that grappled with this question of Tzadik V'Ralo Rasha V'Tov Lo. To assume that a person that's bothered by the question is a heretic, to assume that the issue is a simple issue, to assume that, well, hey, there's the Olam Haba, and therefore the issue is a non-issue, that's not the case. For a person to say, well, I don't understand it, and therefore it must be that there's no God, that is something which is problematic. But for a person to say, well, hey, it's something which doesn't seem to add up, that's something that we find a great sources that we're bothered. For a person to say, it's very difficult to understand. That's something we find many great people without approach. We do have the belief that Tzaddik Hashem B'chol Drachav. That is a very basic belief, and even at times a great tragedy. That is what our reaction is meant to be. That realization that Kol Ma'ida Av Rahman L'Tav Avid. But nevertheless, the issue is not a non-issue. In any case, so Moshe Rabbeinu asked that HaKadosh Baruch Hu should explain to him Tzadik V'Ralo Rasha V'Tov Lo. Did HaKadosh Baruch Hu answer that question? Well, two opinions in the Gemara. According to Rav Meir, he did not give a full answer to that question. The Gemara, though, according to the first opinion, does say that HaKadosh Baruch Hu responded. And what was that response? So the Gemara first says that, well, a tzaddik v'tov lo is a tzaddik ben tzaddik, tzaddik v'ra lo is a tzaddik ben rasha, rasha v'tov lo is a rasha ben tzaddik, rasha v'ra lo is a rasha ben rasha. The Gemara, though, rejects that. The Gemara says that Poked Avon al Banim is only when Ochzem Masei Avosem Biadem. Rather, says the Gemara, Tzadik V'Tovlo is a Tzadik Gomor. Tzadik V'Ralo, Tzadik She'eno Gomor. Rosh Tovlo, Rosh She'eno Gomor, Rosh V'Ralo, Rosh Gomor. The idea being that a Tzadik She'eno Gomor has some Averos which it needs to be punished for, and thus, in this world, you will undergo some suffering. Rosha V'Tovlo has some mitzvos that needs to be rewarded for, as rewarded in this world. Thus, he has Tov in this world. That is the approach which the Gemara suggests. As I indicated, Rabbi Meir disagrees. He says that Moshe Rabbeinu is not giving the response to this question. Pligid Rabbi Meir. Tom Rabbi Meir that B'chanosi et Sasher Achon, B'richamti et Sasher Achem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says in those Pesukim Parshas Kisisa. And the Gemara Darshans, B'chanosi et Sasher Achon, Af Api She'eno Hoga. B'richamti et Sasher Achem, Af Api She'eno Hoga. Even though the person is not Hogan, even though the person isn't worthy. Many have pointed out, Rav Kook, and somebody said that the Ramban also in Shar Gamul has this approach, that when the Gemara says Afa Pisheno Hogan means even though we can't tell why he's deserving. Gemara doesn't mean to say that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will reward, will punish when a person is not deserving. The point, though, of the Gemara is that even though we can't tell why this person would be worthy of the reward or of the punishment. Okay, I see we're running out of time. I'll just add one point. Rav Kook suggests that which Rabbi Meir is of the opinion that Kadosh Baruch Hu did not explain to Moshe Rabbeinu Tzadik V'Ralo Rosh V'Tovlo. He connects that with Rav Meir L'Shitasa. Rav Meir is of the opinion that Shema Garin, that one's name has an impact on who he is. One's name has an impact on who he is and how he behaves. Thus, says Rav Kook, there are certain factors that, in a certain sense, might limit one's bechira, and thus, says Rabbi Meir, we can't figure out on the basis of, we can't always know why a person does what he does, why a person behaves the way that he does. After all, although certainly there's a large bechira element, there's also some element of the impact that there are the impact of factors which are beyond his control. After all, the name is given to a person not because a person chooses it; it's something which is beyond his control. Therefore, says Rameir, we can't ever really figure out fully what one's motives are or the basis of one's actions. Okay, I guess Lina there, Bezrat Hashem, next time we'll discuss a little bit the concept of Yisurim Shel Ahava and a little bit more about the Yisurim in this world. Again, we need to conclude with the idea that Tzaddik Hashem B'chol Drachav, the realization that Kol Ma'ida Abdrachman L'Tav, and Bezrat Hashem next time also to talk about the idea of sometimes the righteous suffering for the Averos of the generation. I'd like to wish everybody to have a wonderful Zman. Let's try to make the most of it and see to it that Bezrat Hashem will have these Yisurim, the Yisurim that our growth experience will help us become better, more spiritual Jews and better people. Have a wonderful day.